Yo, what is up, guys? Joker bringing you another video for Last Epoch Season 2, The Tombs of the Erased. I want to preference this video. I'm going to try to not just mindlessly glaze EHG in this video, but TLDR, I'm having an amazing time. I have over 20 hours played just in the first 2 days of the launch. I'm having a really fun time, and I'm having a hard time and having some difficulty putting it down, right? Like when I went to bed last night, I was like, okay, I'll go to bed after I clear the next echo. Okay, maybe the next echo. But then it got to the point where I was just super tired because I had been streaming for pretty much 30 hours out of the last 2 days, and I only slept for like 4. So I was just exhausted. But this morning I woke up after 12 hours of sleep, and I'm ready to get into the day 2 recap. Let's go ahead and go over the character. We managed to hit level 80, and essentially what we're doing now is we transitioned from being a cold-based build, from a bleed-based build to a cold crit-based build. Day 1, I was feeling like my damage was decent, but I really wanted to move away from the damage over time. I was able to get it to a peak of like 600 bleed stacks, which sounds insane because it is, on day 1 and halfway through day 2 before I made the transition. I just wanted to be more hit based for better clear, right? That way I didn't have to wait for the bleeds to actually tick down and kill everything. So we went ahead and swapped to a crit based build. Main thing that's giving us damage is Morning Frost. These boots give us 1 cold damage per dex, but it does remove 1 cold res and 1 physical res per dex as well. So we had to kind of try to balance those out. We're currently sitting at 59 dex, so these boots are just giving us plus 59 cold damage to attack, which is pretty cool. The rest of our gear is primarily just like crit oriented, right? So we got some new gloves. They're really not the greatest. They're the next thing we're looking at to improve. They just have dex, crit strike chance, and HP. And a little bit of poison res, right? That's pretty much all they're doing. Our relic is the other thing that we're looking to improve, but it dropped with exalted crit multi, and it had crit chance on it innately. I was trying to get elemental res and health, and it ended up bricking. Well, not bricking, because it is still really good for what I need it for, but it could definitely be significantly better. So we're looking to upgrade that as well. From there, we have a quiver that's just crit multi, crit strike chance, dex, and res. We have a ring that dropped with exalted freeze rate multiplier and cold res. It has damage over time on it as well, because honestly I was trying to roll something else, but that's what it landed on. And it's not a completely dead stat because bleed chance turns into frostbite, so it gives my frostbite a little bit of damage, but we're not really scaling frostbite that hard. And then apart from that, it just has the +1 to attributes and the double good res. You can see it still has forging potential, and the reason for that is because it has the max affixes that it can. I can't do anything else besides try to snipe off the damage over time and put something else on there. Like, that's the only thing that I could do. Our belt is the same. I was going to swap it out, but once again, the damage over time with Ellie skills works, like the move speed works, the bleed chance works. We are definitely looking for a better belt, but for right now, this one does work. Our other ring, same thing. We were able to drop a second ring that had exalted freeze rate multiplier, and this one dropped actually pretty nutty because I was able to go ahead and seal the poison resistance super early for like no forging potential. So we get the poison res, we get the Ellie res, we get the necrotic res, we get cold res, we get freeze rate multiplier, and we get cold damage. Like, we just get so many good modifiers that we would like. This ring, I am going to probably have a hard time finding an upgrade for. Then we have our bow. I got lucky and I dropped a bow that had +5 crit and 13% attack speed with flat bow physical damage. And it was already on a bow that had +3 crit strike chance and 60 crit strike multi. Like, this, in my opinion, is going to be the base I use for my end game character, just because it's so much flat crit and crit multi on its own with the high flat damage that this is going to be kind of what we want, just with slightly different mods. Then we have our chest plate that we were using. Once again, something that I'm going to have some difficulty finding an upgrade for. Preferably, what we would want to do is find an exalted chest plate with exalted dexterity and put on +2 levels or +3 levels to Heartseeker. That would be like the big like Omega end game, but we have not found any of those Heartseeker plus level shards, so we're struggling a little bit there. We have our amulet that we crafted. It has exalted all res, so we put necrotic res on it. This is the same amulet that we were using in the last video as well. Once again, this is probably something that we are planning on changing. I'm pretty sure this is the same amulet we were using in the last video. And then we have a snowblind, which gives us cold res and endurance plus all of the other modifiers that we get from snowblind, right? Like, I'm immune to blind and chill, on top of the fact that I apply and chill enemies. So overall, good. We have an endurance threshold of 44%, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at the damage. So the reason why I wanted to go ahead and do this at the combat dummy as opposed to a echo, I will definitely run an echo here in a second, but the damage on the build stacks up based on the amount of recurves that procced, essentially, right? My damage goes up based on the number of times I attack and the amount of arrows I got going. So let's go ahead and show you just holding right mouse button, right? This is what our damage is looking like on single target, and this is without any kind of buff, right? We do have 2 buffs that we can add onto this, but if you look in there, you can see some decent numbers. Like, you can see some 50Ks sometime. I think that was 100K. And then just the sheer amount of hits per second is kind of insane in my opinion. And of course, they're almost all crits because we have 93% crit chance, and Heartseeker itself has innately like a 6-7% crit chance, right? So that's us just holding the right mouse button. In bosses, our damage rotation would be something like stacking up all of our stacks of bleed, and then we would drop our black arrow as well, continue to do this, and then we'd pick up the black arrows, right? And then the damage would be higher because black arrow gives you a pretty decent damage multiplier. And as you can see, majority of the numbers changed to like 50K. So I don't know my effective DPS because, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. I wish they had the TLI window where it shows me my damage, but from what I can understand, I'm hitting at least 8 or 9 times per second, and if we lowball and say we're doing like 15, 20K per hit, then we're doing like 160k per second. I don't know. It's super hard to calc the damage on this build just because of like how do you, right? Like how many numbers is that per second? And we still have a lot of attack speed that we can scale too. Like, so is this 300k damage per second? Is this 400? Like I don't know what my damage is, especially when I have all my buffs stacked up, and then majority of the time we're hitting like the 50, 60, 70k. Like how do I tell what the damage is? But so far we've had no problem progressing through the end of time. I'm a little bit slower than everybody else because, like I said, everyone is already in Empowered Echoes, but I took some time off to play some TLI, so I'm a little bit behind. I'm going to be in Empowered Echoes probably first hour and a half, 2 hours of hour and a half, 2 hours of stream. I'll probably be in Empowered Echoes, but this is what the character looks like in the maps, right? You just throw out the Heartseeker, and since Heartseeker auto tracks enemies for you, unless you see a shining icon on the floor, I just kind of run through. And the reason why I wanted to show the damage on the reason why I wanted to show the damage on the combat dummy as opposed to in the map itself, because these mobs don't really live long enough for my damage to ramp to what it's supposed to be, right? But overall, really good. As you can see, a lot of stuff's getting frozen as well because of how high my freeze rate multiplier is. It goes something like one hit, and then the next hit's pretty much going to freeze it, and it's a pretty good defensive layer. I guess speaking of defensive layers, how we're living essentially is we have a lot of damage leached, right? So we're leeching a lot of our damage. As long as we don't get one shot, we have pretty much full health back in like a second or two. We're working on increasing the amount of HP we have, because that's going to be what's really the deciding factor, right? And then we have our echo cleared. That's literally how fast the echoes go. You know what we can do? We have a bunch of keys and we have teleports to the ends of dungeons. So maybe I'll go try to run a dungeon real quick. Okay, so not a dungeon, but a cemetery is what we decided to go ahead and run and just kill the little boss here real quick, right? So that's essentially what it looks like. The damage would have looked better if I, didn't stop attacking. But majority of the time, what I do is I just shoot a couple of these out and I see how much HP the boss has left. I mean, honestly, I really should just hold down the button until it is dead, right? That would just make the most sense, but I am lazy. But that is pretty much it. The state of the character at the end of the day of day 2, and as of this morning of day 3. So here's fingers crossed that the progression doesn't slow down significantly, or we get bottlenecked by a lack of damage in empowered monoliths and do have to swap to something else. I don't see that happening, but who knows, right? I am going to make a video about my Weaver's Tree, my opinion on the Weaver's Tree, stuff like that later. I'm still playing around with it. TLDR, all I've done so far in the Weaver's Tree is I have gone lizards because I love the loot lizards, right? I love the loot lizards, so I fully spec'd into them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with this and future content. And until next time, take care.